Folks, we've been talking the new Waterlogged update since the start, and with the big stuff behind us, I think it's time we talk some of these smaller bits of content that may yet still have the biggest potential of all, honestly. And that's being the Knobby Trees, the AboveAverage Trees, and the greater tree trunks of the newest waterlogged biome, of course. Overall, they are quite simple, as they're just trees that are on the water. The thing is, however, each is actually hiding something. So let's get down to chopping them, yes? Well, not exactly, actually. For two reasons, mind you. One, we can't actually chop all three in the first place. And two, we have to find the suckers first. The waterlogged biome can spawn anywhere out there on the high seas, but I promise you this, it loves shallower waters for sure, as I cannot seem to find a world that has a biome that's not close to land, if you know what I mean. I still have yet to get more than 3 per world, however, so make note there. And as far as great tree trunks goes, it appears that they too generate in threes, and with these biomes being rather small, I don't think you're going to have any problems with this next bit. Cause while great tree trunks have plenty going for them by their lonesome actually, we're going to focus on how ramming them can actually impact our worlds outside of the waterlogged biome, because people keep bloody asking me about it. But hitting a tree at speed will result in a random amount of twigs, grass, mossy vines even, and more coming down on us. Although the latter is definitely pretty rare, as I've only seen it once so far. But nearby sea striders will also not be too happy with us. However, things shouldn't be too bad there, I think. As what we're truly after, for now that is an underwater salvageable item that should drop alongside the rest of it after a ramming. And this here is what the game calls an ocean tree nut, and one will respawn at a great tree trunk within a day, even if we don't retrieve it ourselves. But how do we actually do that, you ask? Well, with a pitching winch, of course. Sail over to the thing, snatch it up from the water with the winch, and a knobbly tree nut will be yours. Now, it will seem like it does absolutely nothing besides being able to be carried by us. However, we can either choose to leave it in the water to have it regrow naturally, or we can quote-unquote replant it ourselves via reloading it back onto the winch only to slam it back into the water. And why on earth would we go through all of this trouble for that possibility? Well, it's a good question as things stand now. But note, for now, that after 2 to 3 days, the thing should grow into a knobby tree here, and then it will be up to us to decide whether we want to wait out its natural growth timer, or of course force its growth with Tree Jam, a new fig craft that you can learn about elsewhere. Now we'll get into more detail here soon. But know that this entire process will eventually lead to an above average tree, and these are just essentially player grown great tree trunks. And as I said, as people keep asking, yes, they can be grown anywhere where there's water, and they will help protect us from wetness ever so slightly once we get under its canopy, sort of like how normal trees can, but of course, these are going to be a wider effective ranges that we're dealing with. They will continue to follow suit when it comes to providing shade and thus overheating protection come summertime, which ain't too shabby all things considered. I am still fairly certain that anything under the canopies will be smolder proof, so that's one heck of a bonus potentially. And finally, these trees are meant to be lightning proof too. However, player-grown ones do tend to get set ablaze occasionally regardless, so bear that in mind. But hold up, what do you exactly mean by player-grown trees? Can the game actually naturally create greater tree trunks? Well, not exactly. For you see, these knobby trees we can find all over the biome, in decent numbers mind you, can all be made into above average trees themselves, but will still have to be heavily involved in the process, so perhaps player grown isn't the right way to start phrasing things here. Still, these natural knobby trees have 3 stages of growth to them, with small, medium, and large variants, and as you can imagine, each stage will be dropping various amounts of wood if and when they are chopped, but they're nothing special there, mind you. Oh, they can also be rammed instead of chopped too, but I really wouldn't advise that for obvious reasons, and although their stumps can be burned to completely destroy them, ramming the trunks also provides one last log if you need it, but again, I really wouldn't advise much of that. No. Now, if you need the wood on the water, it's a different story. But knobby trees are really only meant for one thing, everyone. more above average trees. Using that jam from before, we are back to not only forcing their growth, but also quote-unquote enriching them, as the game calls it. They can still be chopped in this state for no additional loot, mind you, but if left to enrich over 3+ days, we will start to notice a flower atop a tree, and this here is key, as we're on our way to creating our very own giant trees. Enrich it again, and wait out that same timer pretty much to discover 2 flowers among the leaves now, but we're not quite done yet. Enrich it again, only to wait another 3-ish days to get yet another 3rd flower atop these knobby trees, as you can see. And finally, once you wait out the 4th enrichment timer, that also appears to be longer than the others, you will finally be rewarded with an above average tree anywhere that you do this out there on the water. Now, we've already discussed what they can do for us. And yes, unfortunately, above average trees do not spawn mossy vines, sea strider nests, or grass gators like the great tree trunks for the time being. However, I have to imagine that that's going to change come full release for sure. For now, however, note that while we can chop our own above average trees, very much unlike the great tree trunks, it not only takes a whopping 25 hits from an axe to do so, we also only gain 6 logs from it, which makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, sure, a couple pieces of grass and a few twigs are also going to be thrown into the mix, but come on now. 6 logs after all of that? Yeah, I imagine that above average trees are going to be way better and very different after today, folks. So keep that in mind while we wrap up here. We'll wrap up with what, you ask? Well, some final notes about great tree trunks themselves, like how they will be in charge of respawning any destroyed sea strider nests roughly 3 days after one is, well, destroyed, of course. But don't expect said nests to actually simply return to their original locations, as it appears that the location is actually random at the end of the day. But great tree trunks are also responsible for quote-unquote housing and thus respawning grass gators, and they do so incredibly quickly, mind you. Like 2 minutes quick to be specific. And when the gators do respawn, they hilariously come crashing down from the canopy, creating waves when they land. So don't let your guard down too much, mind. Great tree trunks can be rattled via lightning strikes as well, be them natural strikes or not. However, all that results from this is grass and twigs, mind you, and not a knobby nut. But yes, lightning protection is a thing under these natural ones, as mentioned before. But finally, there's a bunch of these greater tree roots around too that can be rammed or chopped for a driftwood piece and a twig. However, jam can also be applied to them indefinitely, it seems, but I still have no flippin' idea what it does. Oh well. Perhaps it's not yet implemented. But there you have it, everyone. An entire video dedicated to wood. Water wood. Folk have been asking me now daily how to grow their own trees ever since this content has come out. So I thought I'd help them out, while also expanding on some of the other stuff around these parts. And because of that, we've actually only have one other thing to cover if we do so choose. Grass gators. Maybe I'll see you for that one, maybe I won't. But for now, thanks for watching, well wishes to all, you're all above average to me, and I'll see ya in the next one. Bye bye.